Hello, welcome to the Insureblocks Insurance Community. I'm Walid Alsakov, and I'm very pleased to have joining me Rory Unsworth and Mark Simpson, co-founders of the community. Say hi, guys.
Hey, good evening.
So we're going to be running this weekly kind of mini webinar kind of video shoot every Friday, and we're going to be answering a set of questions, which is, what is it you really liked this week that you saw? What did you see this week that made you wonder? But you know what? We don't want to make it all about us. We'd love to have one of you guys come and join us on a weekly basis. So to kick things right off, Rory, could you tell us a little bit about what did you see this week that made you go, I really like this?
Thank you, Ellie. Well, for me, two very interesting developments in the contract lifecycle management field, which is a little bit my area. The first is the acquisition of Seal software by DocuSign, and the second is the successful funding round of Syrian Labs. So what you're seeing here is two big players in the CLM space growing out their value chain to cover more bits of contract lifecycles end-to-end process. And why is this a big deal? Well, at the moment, when you're doing the kind of work I'm doing, which is legal engineering, you have to solve problems by stitching together different tools from different providers so you can create the value chain which the customer, the financial institution, or whoever is looking for. And now we've got DocuSign saying we can give you e-signature, which is our core product, but we recognize that contract search is also important to all our customers, and we can give you that through the Seal stack that we've just bought. So any contract you sign with us becomes searchable for content, for patterns across the book of business, and you can better understand your book. So that's great. And the same for Syrian. I know them very well. They've been around a long time, and they're really great. And now they have a fresh stack of $44 million bills to address all their development pipeline and grow out their value chain to add automatic document review and a lot of the pre-contract steps. So this definitely goes in the right direction. It may be something that we start seeing the benefit of in our market, the insurance and reinsurance market. That's what I really like this week.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that, Rory. Mark, tell us what you really like. But just before, tell us 2 words about your background.
Okay, so this is the BBC has released a series of famous TV show backdrops that people can put into Zoom. Maybe we'll drop a link in the show notes so people can pick that up. So being a technologist, here I am in the Heidi High radio station. And the thing this week that I really liked was from Block Bioscience. So Ariel Woodnow, who I know appeared on your show this week, and I attended a webinar with Ariel last night. And lots of people are always saying about what the real world case is for blockchain, for distributed ledger technology. Why can't we do something centralized? And I think the whole COVID-19 piece and the tension about wanting to understand the spread of the disease and knowing if people are safe to travel or not, versus the infringement on their civil liberties and concerns over how data is going to be used. We've seen this a lot in the UK. Well, the immunity passporting solution that the Block Bioscience guys are developing, I thought was really good. I love the fact that, and it's a race at the moment. It's a race for a solution. It's definitely a race to scale, but the fact that they'd already borrowed a number of things that had already worked in terms of how you get a version of proving who somebody is. So they borrowed some stuff from Canada that had been originally came to, believe it or not, to stop doormen taking information from young women that were trying to prove their age and using it to stalk them, versus, again, digital provenance and taking some examples from Everledger's stuff, so from the UK startup. And the fact that things exist on your device, but they'd also thought about people that weren't so digitally enabled, so they've got a kiosk system. So it looks really, really promising. They're already trialing it in South America, and so many complexities, but it was just, a real world problem that I think blockchain is going to help enable a solution to. So that's what I really like this week.
So that wasn't just you flattering Walid and Ariel. Sounds like you really listened to this thing, right?
Oh no, it's and there's some real complexities out there on kind of a values, a beliefs, behaviors stuff, as well as technology. So, the guys at Block Bioscience have really, really thought about this. But as I said, they've combined a number of things as well. And we know in the insurance industry, we're often obsessed with making something unique and building it from the ground up. And these guys were like, no, how do we solve something, and how do we get it to scale? And they're not looking to skin everybody. You know, it's really affordable. Yeah, it looks really exciting.
There was some very interesting points that came out of that podcast, because one of the key phrases he used, which I really enjoyed, was for him, blockchain was an accelerator. You know, he had 8 weeks to build this solution, and he just, no way in hell he could have done it using traditional technologies. And as you said, you know, he borrowed stuff from Canada, he borrowed stuff from Everledger. There are plenty of libraries of code and examples that you can use to build on top. So it's fascinating. And you know, his solution about the immunity passport, you know, has a spirit of self-sovereign identity. It's not quite just there yet, but within the time limitations he's had, it's amazing what he's managed to build. But I want to move on to the next question, which is, Rory, what did you see this week that made you wonder?
Well, what had me wondering this week was a thing called Recovery Re. Anybody heard of that?
No.
Yeah.
Well,
can you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah, well, it's very interesting. It's currently an idea, right? But it's being discussed by Lloyd's to create a vehicle to provide pandemic business recovery products, including a piece of after the event cover for COVID-19. Now, I don't know all the details, and it may be that it's only going to cover losses after policy inception. That would be, from my perspective, more understandable, more traditional. But I really wonder how that can work. Inherent to the definition of insurance and reinsurance is the notion that you can only cover unintended and unexpected events, as opposed to ones that not only are expected now, but actually have happened. So it seems fraught with difficulty from all perspectives, and I'm curious to see what happens there.
Interesting.
But I also love with this that you know, we've heard a lot of negative press in the last few weeks around the insurance industry. Is it honouring its promises in respect of business interruption, and in particular the extended business interruption, without kind of naming names on this? And this real sense of our insurance is kind of in survival mode and just bunkering down. And we've seen some numbers of some potentially big losses out of Lloyd's on this, but not only are they, you know, thinking about the restore really the after the fact piece. I know that Lloyd's Lab cohort 5 has got a heavy emphasis on things that will support the impact of COVID-19. And it's not necessarily direct stuff about products around that, but it can be around how you have a digital workforce. So again, I think Lloyd's is doing a lot of really good things, as well as, you know, I think they've put up 15 million of seed money towards this next, you know, COVID related solutions, as well as they've donated 15 million pounds towards charities as well. So, you know, there's definitely some bright lights, and it's not just Lloyd's, you know, lots of other, you know, establishments in the companies market, but it's good to see. You know, I think insurance needs to stand side by side with all these other industries and collaborate in that way.
Yeah, as you say, it's not just Lloyd's. I mean, the European Union has set up, you know, a hackathon and funds, you know, to fight COVID-19. I believe even R3, you know, developers of blockchain, you know, has also set up some things. It's actually very encouraging to see companies and institutions around the world, you know, just calling out to the market, say, come and build stuff with us, help us find solutions.
Yeah.
So Mark, what is it that you saw this week that made you wonder?
So my wonder was yesterday, Visa filed a patent for a digital currency based on blockchain technology, and again with the idea of something kind of linked to fiat as well. Now, we know that Visa was one of the founding members of the Libra Association and then left, but it doesn't mean that they don't see a future in digital currency. So I thought it was really interesting, and kind of coupled with that is when you look at history of dominant reserve currencies through the years. So, you know, the Portuguese, the Spanish, the French, the English, we've got the dollars at the moment. The typical reign of a dominant currency maximum has been around 100, 105, 110 years. So we've kind of seen that. The dollar came in in 1920. So we're literally bang on 100 years. So I think it's kind of interesting, and I'm not predicting, you know, if and when there'll be a downfall of the dollar, but history would suggest it's happened, you know, to other dominant currencies, and we're already starting to see some other big trades. So there was a equivalent, again, 14 million trade in China this week of steel on a blockchain exchange, but it was in the yen as well. So you know, it's moving away from dollar. So I think what we're going to see is, you know, a greater exploration and reality of these things. And you think of the kind of exchange that Visa has and its access. So I think you know, we're only going to see more and more of that. I'm just wondering how it's going to play out.
It's definitely a very fascinating time. I mean, looking at digital, you know, currencies, also a lot of central banks have been investing recently in how they can adopt, you know, digital currencies in some shape or form. So a lot of changes are happening, and we'll see, you know, which ones, you know, get to win. Well, gentlemen, I don't know if you have any final statements you wanted to share, but if not, I'm gonna thank you all for listening to this video. We really would love to have one or more of you to join us in these weekly kind of webinars. And for now, stay safe and have a great weekend.
Yeah, cheers guys. Enjoy your weekends. Take
Bye.
care.